Welcome to talks by members of the Survey and Cartography section of the National Speleological Society. These videos are intended to be how-to videos on cave survey software and other programs used by cavers in the exploration and documentation of the world beneath our feet.
All right. Well, I got a cool screenshot here of Lechigia surface terrain. I want to start out talking about the differences between Breakout and some of the other programs y'all are probably familiar with. Because I guess I'll start on this slide real quick. I get a lot of questions about, like, does it do loop closure and so forth? And right now, it doesn't do any of those things like listed here. Like, right now it's focused on you import data from walls or compass format, including the XYZ loop closed station positions that you output from walls or compass. Because I focus primarily on implementing all sorts of cool visualizations and things designed to help, especially for planning trips and understanding huge caves. And towards the end, I'll talk about some of my shiny new features like 3D terrain, time machine, and then like making rooms around like poor man's LiDAR disto shots, display shots from a station. So I'm just going to go through list of things to show off. So one of the things I put a lot of effort into in Breakout is making the mouse navigation really easy to use. So one of the things that kind of gets on my nerves about a lot of the other programs out there is that it can be easy to like get lost, or it's hard to like zoom in real close to something and easily be able to pan around it like this. So I put in a lot of work to like make things really convenient like that. For example, if you zoom into something, it slows down as you get close to other parts of the cave. Slows down both the zoom and like moving side to side so that it doesn't just jump way away from where you can see. And the other big thing, which I don't think any other programs I know of are super good about, is I try to intelligently like pick where it rotates around. You see that cross is like where it decided when you click. That's where it decided, to like rotate the scene around based on what stuff is close to it. So that generally works pretty well. No matter where you go, you can pretty easily like orbit around the stuff you're looking at. And if it doesn't work for whatever reason, you can just click directly on something to select it and move around it that way. So as you can see, in like in a crazy complex cave like Lechigia, if you want to be able to understand one of these complex areas, it can definitely be a help to see what all is going on in 3D. One of the reasons I started making this is because it was so difficult for some caves like this to like get any sense of what's going on just looking at a 2D map, a broad level overview like this, and then trying to piece things together in my head. So, I've also recently added some more things to help prevent you from getting lost. For instance, like if you zoom into where you can't see anything, it automatically bounces back like that. If you just, bam, it just comes right back. So basically can't get lost, which can be a problem in other programs I've worked with. So, okay. Another really nifty thing we can do is take section cuts. So I'll just show that real quick. I'm going to make a section cut of the rift here in Lechigia. The way I do that is I hold Alt and I click the polygon around the area I want to make a profile view of. And then finally, when I'm clicking the last point, I right click and that selects everything in that area. Turn off that guy. So now that stuff is selected, up here in my menu, I click this auto profile button, and that automatically rotates to a good azimuth for this. And I don't know if you caught it, but it actually clips away stuff in front of and behind the selection as well, so it doesn't get in the way. And you can just focus on that area you selected. But it's also cool if you want to adjust the section cut by holding Alt and scrolling the mouse wheel. You can push those section cut planes forward and backward, like so. And you can, if you hold Alt Shift, you can do that for the one in the back. Let's see if I push that one back far enough, you see the entrance to actually be up here, up there. So that can be helpful if you're trying to understand the section and profile, or maybe if you're doing cartography, maybe that can help some for doing certain profiles. I don't know. I think KWare is probably a lot better for that, given some of the features TrueCart is implemented. But anyway, so this is another feature I made a long time ago to try to help myself understand things. So let me bring this cave back to normal here. So you notice how it highlights whatever I'm pointing at here with that cyan color. So what it's doing is it figures out which passage I'm pointing at, and it traces everything going off from that passage a certain distance, and it makes it glow like that. And the farther away it gets, the less glow there is until it peters out. And the reason I implement that is so that you can quickly tell at a glance what kinds of things are connected and close together. So one place I really like to demonstrate that here in Lechuguilla, Far East, these two layers here, naively, you might think, looking at this, that there's more interconnection between those layers, right? But it turns out, with that glow enabled, you can see the only place it's really connecting is all the way over here. And all these spots up in here don't actually connect at all. So that can be helpful sometimes for exploring, ways to navigate from one area to another. Okay. So there are a lot of other challenges to understanding large systems too. And this is one of my main inspirations for writing Breakout, because I started caving at Fisher Ridge with all those, 120 some odd miles of passage. I would hear a lot of names of different areas thrown around, and some of them weren't even on the printed maps. Even if there were, you kind of have to hunt around for it for a while. So I tried to make it easy to search for things, at least what's available in the data. So in this Lech data, I've imported the trip names from Compass. So if I search for Oz, for instance, it finds that from the trip name or comments and flies right to it. Or for instance, I could search for chandelier ballroom. So this is probably not perfect here, because if I go in and look at the actual stuff I highlighted, it just says chandelier ballroom area. So that kind of thing only works as well as the trip names are based upon the actual areas of the cave, but it still kind of tends to give you the general area of where things are. You can search for station names too. I'm going to demonstrate that in Fisher Ridge, because I know station names are there. Open that real quick. You can see it shows progress of everything here. Try to make everything as user-friendly as I can, so that you're not stuck wondering, what is it doing? Is it gonna be stuck forever, or is it making progress? So, okay. So, for instance, if you heard someone talk about the AJ survey, you can just Control F and search for AJ, and boom, right there, it just highlights it. And you can even search for where people have been. So, say I search for my friend Sean Lewis. That's highlighting all the trips where his name is in the list of surveyors from the raw data we got. that could be a fun thing for, like compiling stats and seeing who's, who's been where and all sorts of things like that. So another thing, another aid I have is, if you notice down at the bottom of the screen, it shows, quick information about what I'm pointing at. It shows the stations of the shot that's right under the mouse, the basic, shot angles and distance, and the trip name. If I turn on station labels, even if I'm zoomed out or there aren't many labels, you can see it draws the name of the station very right over where I hover. So you can quickly get a sense of what you're looking at in a given area. And also, if I select something, it jumps right to it in the raw data and highlights it for me, so I can see. Occasionally, I've used this to like debug blunders and things, or like bad tie-ins, since I'm able to get to the raw data here and see things about it. So also see, for instance, like what the exact date was and everyone who was on that survey on the team. Ability to understand exploration histories. So aside from being able to see people's names and the dates, you can do things like color by the date. So what we have here is basically all the brighter colored areas are more recent. So, if you're coming to this project as a newcomer, you can immediately see, oh, they didn't discover this whole northern portion of the cave up here until, long after they had surveyed most of this stuff down here. And you can, the brightest stuff you can see here immediately, like, oh, these are the most active areas of exploration recently, things like that. There's also the time machine feature I mentioned. You just drag the slider and it magically hides parts of the cave that that post date, that date on the slider. And you can animate that for presentation. This is more of a for fun type of feature, but could be of use in understanding caves. Unfortunately for Lechigia, it doesn't work too well because there's so much resurvey that all the original dates for passages that were surveyed are they're not displayed. So you'll see a lot of like gaps when you're using the time machine because it's not going to show a given passage until its resurvey date comes up. And unfortunately, there's not a very easy way to work around that, except maybe to like add an ability to show all of the old passage data that's been resurveyed. So one of the main things we use Breakout for these days is planning trips. The biggest thing about that, and the biggest important feature for working with large cave systems like this, is the ability to open survey notes. We have this Fisher Ridge data. I've linked in pretty much everything. Basically, I just double click on something and it opens our scan notes PDF. You can see the linked data has the file name of the scan notes here. So like for a smaller cave system, Caveware, Phillips program, would probably be a better option for this, since you can bring all of the survey sketches into 3D and see it all together. Also makes it great for like initial setup for cartography and things. The only thing is, for a cave system this big, like Fisher Ridge size or Lechigia size, go back to Lechigia here, there's just so many passages that you might get some of the scan notes into Caveware, but getting all those in there would be a huge chore, take a long time. So here, no. Try it again. Okay. So I've tried to strike a balance with Breakout where I've made a tool for trying to import uh, the scan notes for other people's projects, like Letch. For Fisher Ridge, we had like our own like book numbering system, and I wrote a script for us to import those. But obviously, not everyone could just go and write a script. Uh, so I made a wizard that looks like this. Make survey notes, and it asks you some questions. So right now, this like relies on you having a lot of your like survey station names in the file name. I might add out other options in the future. So I'm going to click Attribute style, and some people have like all of the pages in a single PDF. Some people have separate images for the pages. In Lechigia, it's like one PDF per trip, basically. And I believe the station names, I forget in Lechigia, I believe they're, oh no, they're probably case insensitive. So I think Compass is case insensitive. And then you just find the directory that contains all of your survey scan files and hit OK. And it's going to scan all those files, try to figure out which station names are in the file names, and correlate them to the best match among your survey trips. And so once it's done with that, it tells you the results here. Shows you, okay, here's your shot, your two stations, the name of the trip, and then the file here that it thinks is the best match to that. So you can go through and see if you're happy with the results. You can see here that shows you all the files that found that it's successfully matched to something. And then here you can see files that it was unable to find a match for. And yeah, it's tricky with a large system like this and definitely not perfect, but the project here does get a fairly good coverage. You can see if I go to color by has survey notes. So everything that's like that light yellow color here should have survey notes. If I click on it, yep. Is it going to open? Yeah. So it brings it up. It's right there. So as far as the blue, there may be some files that just something funky about the name prevented it from getting linked, or I'm sure there's some that they don't have the note scanned for. So being able to color this way can help manage, what do we need to scan, who need to get linked, and so forth. Okay, so I think that's about all that survey notes. So you can also see lead lists. I imported a bunch of various people's leads into Lechigia. Fix the color here. So each of these question marks is some lead description at a station. There may be multiple ones. So it tells you whatever comments were imported from those. And for Lechigia, they have a bunch of like different lead lists that people maintain, and they're all, whatever format they came up with. So I tried to make a wizard that's smart about trying to support any arbitrary structure. Basically just select the files you want to import like that. And it tries to identify which column in your, I should have mentioned it only takes CSV files right now. So like output from Excel or something. So it tries to figure out which column is like your station name just by looking at which column has the most things that match stations found in your cave. Tries to guess which column looks like it's, height and width. And also, whichever column has the most text is assumed to be a description. And that worked for a lot of the lead lists I got from Lechigia. So if you're happy with those, you can just click add to the project. And of course, they were already here in this Lechigia data, but they should show up when you select add to project. So that's a big help for the planning trips, just to be able to see what stuff is not done. Of course, probably a lot of these Lechigia leads are done, but if you put time into maintaining lead lists, it can be a big help. So, route finding. So this is sort of a cute little thing. I made a basic sort of like Google Maps navigation type thing here. So if you go into this drop down and select best route, then if you select a station, it's going to highlight what it thinks is the best route from that station you selected to wherever you're pointing the mouse at. Obviously, it can't know everything, right? So it can't guarantee it's perfect, but it could be useful for figuring out some things if you're not familiar with an area. Basically, it tries to guess like what the best route is based upon LRUDs and things. It tries to find a path with the best, largest passage cross section. There's also a shortest route option in case you want to try that. Kind of just for fun features in most cases then. But it can be helpful sometimes for presenting and showing, okay, we went here in the cave and so forth. Okay. So one of my other big goals is to visualize patterns. Didn't mean for that bullet point to be there. So I have a lot of like parameters I can color by. For example, if you want to make a map of like what's farthest from the entrance, you select your entrance here and then choose this color by distance option. Click this button. Now you see it's like the brightest stuff is closest to the entrance, and the darkest stuff, for instance, Oz here, you can see is really far away from the entrance. And that's just in terms of any path I could find, not necessarily the best path, but that can be an interesting thing to see. And also show like where's the widest passage, turn off the leads for y'all. And you can fairly easily adjust the scale you want to look. Other things like show, for instance, like where the largest or smallest passages are. I already mentioned date. Another thing I should point out that's kind of handy is if you're just looking at one small area, and for instance, like coloring by depth here, but we don't have much, we don't see much variation here. You can click this like fit button here, and it will automatically adjust the scale to like whatever is currently in view when you click the button. So that's pretty handy. Or you can like select stuff and auto fit. It's not a great example, but you can see it like only fit the scale to that stuff I selected. So that can be handy for getting a nice color scale. Oh yeah, and recently I added all these different gradients so that you have a lot of options to choose from. Let's see, so another nice ones here. Yesterday, at Philip Schuhart's suggestion, I added all these palettes called color brewer palettes. They're designed to work well both for colorblind people and non-colorblind. So you have all those available too. Could be especially good if you're doing print maps or things like that. And maybe if enough people want it in the future, I could make it possible to add more of your own custom gradients as well. What else here? So one thing I keep meaning to do would be nice is like ability to color the map according to certain inventory items. Letch has a lot of inventory data that they're in the process of digitizing. So it wouldn't be too difficult to import all of that inventory data and make some sort of interface where you select what you want to color. And that way maybe you could see neat patterns of what types of speleothems and minerals and things appear where in the cave, things like that. All right, so I implemented 3D terrain recently. I'm going to go to another system here to show that off. A lot of y'all are probably familiar with the Oaxaca area with Huautla and Cheve and all those caves in Mexico. I imported that data here from Walls. Let me show you guys. So down here we have Cheve. Up here is Huautla. And now I'm going to load the terrain. And it uses Mapbox to pull up all this terrain. It's all free, amazingly. It's still kind of a beta thing because it's a little slow to load at first. It'll take it a second here. And the program kind of hiccups while it's loading. But as you can see, once it's all loaded, pretty cool. It takes it a moment after it's loaded to respond again. Okay. So I picked this to show off because it's a really cool terrain with that stream coming through the middle, stream valley. And I put a lot of effort into trying to get the ideal like translucency on this terrain so you can see the caves through it. And sort of be able to understand as you go in, trying to make it where you can see as easily as possible, like how it relates to the surface, which is a tough challenge in 3D, but I think it's pretty cool. It was pretty slow with Zoom running. So anyway, basically, all you need to be able to load the terrain like this is you need either compass or walls file to import with geodetic reference point. And as long as you're able to import that successfully, then it should be able to just find the right terrain to show. Haven't rigorously tested to make sure everything shows in the exact correct location. For instance, there's a cave here floating above the ground, but these entrances seem pretty close. So maybe a mix of, like blunders in the GPS data entry, or there could be some issues with, how I'm positioning the terrain. But so far, it seems to work pretty well. All right, so poor man's LiDAR. This is a fun thing I added recently. I had a friend who wanted to go survey a tiny little cave here in Austin called Whirlpool. It's kind of open. Hang on a sec, this file's glitching out. Let me open. I'll start this in debugging. Anyway, he wanted to go do a little digital survey of this cave to determine if one dig was going to connect to another portion of the cave or if it was going off in a completely different direction. So we just took a Disto X2 in there and did a super quick survey where we just did a skeleton backbone of survey shots and then did a bunch of splay shots going off of it. And there you go. So you can see here, the white lines are the actual survey, and all the other bounding geometry you see here was constructed from all those splay shots. So each vertex of a triangle here was one of those disto points that we shot. This is kind of just showing off, but I can use that section cutting feature I showed earlier. You can kind of see inside that room, see where the station was and where the shots were going off of. Basically we were able to determine that, for instance, this area right here was not going to connect to anything else, but this here was connecting over into this pancake beam over here. And figure this would be a big help for things like domes that often don't get very accurately represented in the digital survey data, especially in large systems. Like sometimes you may shoot clear through a dome room, and the dome doesn't even show up on the 3D data or in your LREDs basically. But if you want to take the time to set stations in big rooms and shoot splays like this, then you can get better 3D representation of what the cave looks like. And I showed you guys the time machine already. So those are some of the newest things I've implemented here. Speaking of LiDAR, I was talking about this, but it would be cool to someday be able to incorporate point cloud from real professional LiDAR that people do on some caves into a program like this, because the raw LiDAR you get from a big scan like that is not really going to be searchable. If it's a big cave system, it's just going to be a bunch of points, and it's not going to, I don't think any of the point cloud formats can store data about, oh, it was near station AJ2 or whatever. But it'd be cool to someday be able to display those point clouds from LiDAR together with all the LRED data, a program like this, so that for a large cave system, you can still see all your passages in 3D and be able to search things and navigate and find things. But, places you want to get better resolution, you can find that too. So, that's about all I plan to talk about here.